T-minus 45 minutes and counting. So let's take a look at the countdown timeline for today's cargo resupply mission. Sorry about that, our graphic intruding a little bit on our countdown timeline. So at the T-minus 38-minute mark, we should hear the results of the go-no-go poll from the launch director. That time is not set in stone. The launch director might give that go a little earlier than that or a little later. If the go is given, the propellant load will start at the T-minus 35-minute mark. Kerosene will be loaded on the first and second stages. Also, liquid oxygen will be pumped aboard the first stage. With 30 minutes left to go, the first stage helium load begins. This is important because the helium gas is used to pressurize the propellant tanks to keep the propellants flowing through into the engines. The loading of cryogenic helium into the storage tanks on the second stage begins at T-minus 26 minutes. At about T-minus 23 minutes, we should hear a call that the second stage kerosene load has been completed. At T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds, the strong-back chill-down process begins. We'll see that process underway with the so-called big vent, which begins at about 20 minutes and 20 seconds. That process of chilling down the feed lines in the strongback clears the way for the start of the second stage liquid oxygen loading at the T-minus 16-minute mark. Next up, at T-minus 7 minutes, the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines will get underway. This involves flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps. This will protect those engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during the startup sequence. About 6 minutes prior to launch, the first stage kerosene RP-1 tank should be full. The Dragon spacecraft will transition to internal power at the 5-minute mark. Then at T-minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the strongback begin to retract from the Falcon 9 vehicle. It will recline to an angle of about 1.5 degrees, leaning back ever so slightly from the Falcon 9, where it will stay until liftoff. Then, at liftoff, that strongback will pull back in a more rapid fashion to clear the way for the vertical climb of the Falcon 9 off the launch pad. In the final minutes of the countdown, the loading of liquid oxygen aboard the first stage and the second stage will conclude. At this point, the Falcon 9 will be fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellants. The propellant tanks will be brought up to flight pressure, and the control of the countdown will be handed over for the final 60 seconds from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard computers. We should hear the call from the SpaceX launch director to verify their final go for launch. And the engine ignition command will be issued at T-minus 3 seconds. If all 9 Merlin 1D engines ignite and are healthy, the flight computer will give the command to release the hold down clamps, and the Falcon 9 will lift off at T0. We're approaching the T-minus 38-minute mark. This is the point in the countdown where we should hear the go from the launch director. We're not sure if NASA is piping through that audio yet, but we'll listen in and hopefully we'll hear something. And although we're not hearing the countdown loops at the present time, you can hear the sound of venting at the launch pad. We are getting audio from SpaceX's cameras at the pad. Can hear some venting there. You can see the signs of vapors forming on the ground support equipment. T-minus 35.
The launch auto sequence has started.
T-minus 35 minutes and counting, and you heard the call there that the auto sequence has started, which means the starter propellant load is underway. With the start of propellant load, we will start to see the buildup of a frost ring and vapors around the first stage of the vehicle. Want to thank Aerospace Rocketry for their $20 super chat. Your donations help us bring this coverage. We very much appreciate your support. The booster flying today is tail number 1080 in the SpaceX fleet. It will be making its 6th journey into space. It's not the first time it has delivered cargo to the, or has made a trip to the International Space Station. Let's take a look at the flight history of this booster. Its first mission was the Axiom 2 privately funded mission, a chartered flight to the International Space Station. It was commanded by former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. So that was the inaugural flight for this booster back in May last year. It then went on to launch the European Space Agency's Euclid telescope. This telescope, which is studying dark matter and bringing some incredible images of the universe. It recently encountered some problems with a small buildup of ice on the instruments of the spacecraft, but they appear to have resolved that problem, so that mission is proceeding as planned. Following that, this booster carried out a couple of Starlink missions, Starlink 6-11 and 6-24. It was then back on duty for Axiom, flying that company's third commercial crew to the space station back in January of this year. Now less than 28 minutes to the launch of the Falcon 9 and the Cargo Dragon 2 spacecraft. Liftoff remains targeted for 4:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The loading of cryogenic helium is now getting underway. That begins with the first stage, and in a few minutes the second stage helium load will begin. Once again, that helium is used to pressurize the propellant tanks of the Falcon 9. Currently, liquid oxygen is being loaded onto the first stage, and we can see the signs of venting as that or vapors forming around the outside of the vehicle as the humid Florida air comes into contact with the cold metal of the fuselage. They are also loading kerosene on the first and second stages. That kerosene load should be nearing completion on the second stage. This Falcon 9 will be departing from Cape Canaveral on a trajectory heading to the northeast, and we'll show you a little bit later that trajectory that the Falcon 9 will take. But there's a chance if you live up the eastern seaboard of the US, you might be able to catch a glimpse. This launch time is probably not the best for viewing further downrange, but there's always a chance you might get to see the Falcon 9 in flight if you live to the north. I want to thank our member Calistia Lee, who suggests hitting the thumbs up button. She says it's free and an easy way to support this channel, and we certainly appreciate any support you can give us by clicking the like button or subscribing and hitting the bell to get notifications of when we go live. In a few moments, we will see the so-called big vent from the strongback structure at pad 40. This is the chill down of those feed lines that run up that lattice-like structure that you can see in this view from inside the launch pad area. Those feed lines are cooled down prior to the start of propellant load of the liquid oxygen into the second stage, and there we can see the start of that vent beginning.
Stage 2, RP1 load complete.
And we also have confirmation that the loading of rocket-grade kerosene RP1 aboard the second stage has been completed. Here's a view of the big vent underway from our friend Chuck Briggs. Can also see that vent underway in our cameras here at the Kennedy Space Center press site.
Stage 2 LOX load has started.
And we have confirmation from SpaceX Launch Control that the loading of liquid oxygen aboard the second stage of the Falcon 9 is now underway. Countdown clock is approaching the T-minus 16-minute mark. Liftoff remains scheduled for 4:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Want to thank Christopher Jones for a $2 super chat. Thank you for your support. Let's take a look at the trajectory of this mission. So you're looking at Space Launch Complex 40 from a satellite view. Once again, this is the first time that SpaceX has launched a Cargo Dragon 2 from this pad. The first generation Cargo Dragons did fly from here for many years. Coming out of the launch pad, the rocket will head to the northeast, targeting a rendezvous with the International Space Station. Meanwhile, the first stage, indicated by the red line here, will perform a boost back burn to essentially perform a U-turn in the sky to reverse direction and head back towards a landing here at Cape Canaveral. It will touch down at landing zone 1, which is located close to the point of the Cape here. Previously, it was not possible for the second generation Dragon vehicles to return to the launch site, and they had to land on the drone ship, but recent performance upgrades now enable the Falcon 9 to return to the launch site, which eliminates quite a bit of time in the refurbishment of the vehicles. Want to thank Dale Pennington for their $2 super chat, and also welcome Southern Torian to the pad leader level. Once again, we can't bring this coverage to you without the support of our members and viewers, and we want to give a big thanks to everyone who's contributed, and you can also help us out by simply just pushing the like button. With less than 12.5 minutes to the launch of the Falcon 9, let's take a look at the cargo that is loaded aboard the Dragon vehicle. There's a total of 6,263 pounds, or 2,841 kilograms, aboard the capsule. These resupply missions are crucial to keep the space station crew fed and providing them with new scientific experiments to work on. And you can see from this this list here that there's the crew supplies, which on this flight also includes some fresh coffee. Inside the Dragon trunk, which is the cylinder at the base of the Dragon, there is also a rather large piece of equipment inside that unpressurized compartment. There is 1,391 pounds or 631 kilograms of cargo, and that is made up of a pump module that will be used for the space station's cooling system. That pump module is actually returning to space. You can see here the pump module being maneuvered by an astronaut on the final space shuttle mission, STS-135. That mission, which flew in July 2011, picked up the pump module and returned it to Earth. It's now been refurbished and will fly back to the space station, where it serves as a spare. It's not actually going to be installed. It will be removed from Dragon's trunk on March 25th, if all goes according to plan with today's launch. And then it will be attached to an external stowage platform outside the space station on March 26th. And that will be available should there be any problems with the pump module that provides the cooling system for the space station. The space station has two separate cooling systems, and this module is a crucial spare that will be delivered on this flight. Let's take a closer look at the Falcon 9 vehicle. It stands 70 meters or 229 feet tall and has a diameter of 3.66 meters or 12 feet. The bottom two-thirds of the rocket is made up of the first stage. Today's first stage booster has flown 5 times before and is designated tail number 1080 in the SpaceX fleet. At the base of the first stage are the 9 Merlin 1D engines, which burn rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen to produce 1.7 million pounds of thrust. The chill down of those engines should be getting underway about now. Above the first stage is the interstage. This is a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core surrounded by carbon fiber. In the inset image, you can also see the deployable hypersonic grid fins. These titanium winglets provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it falls back through the atmosphere tail first like a dart. At the top of the interstage are 3 mechanical latches that attach.
Stage 1, fuel load complete.
And there we hear confirmation that the loading of RP-1 aboard the first stage is complete. They completed the loading of kerosene on the second stage earlier in the countdown. The second stage nozzle is safely housed inside that interstage adapter until stage separation. The upper stage is powered by a single modified Merlin engine called a Merlin vacuum engine or MVAC engine. It's equipped with a large nozzle optimized for burns in the vacuum of space and produces more than 200,000 pounds of thrust. The MVAC engine burns the same propellant mix, kerosene and liquid oxygen, as the first stage. After the deployment of the Cargo Dragon, it will fire again to drive the stage back into the atmosphere, where it will burn up, and that reduces the risk of creating any space debris on this mission. And then atop the Falcon 9 is the Cargo Dragon itself. It will dock with the International Space Station on Saturday morning.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for strong back retract. Dragon is in terminal count.
And we are now inside 5 minutes. The Dragon has switched to internal power, and the start of strong back retract is approaching.
Strong back is retracting.
We're going to look for the opening of those clamps that you can see around the top of the second stage. And there they go, starting to open up. Now less than 4 minutes to the launch. T-minus 3 minutes and counting. We're approaching the point where liquid oxygen load will be complete.
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
There we have confirmation of the loading of liquid oxygen being complete on the first stage. We'll get a call shortly that the second stage oxygen tank is full. Once again, liftoff of the Falcon 9 is scheduled for 4:55 p.m., just 2 minutes and 3 seconds away. Now less than 2 minutes left on the clock. Waiting to hear the completion.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
And there we have it, the loading of liquid oxygen on
Dragon
the
is in auto idle.
second stage is now complete. The Falcon 9 is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. We're coming up on the point in the countdown where the Falcon 9's onboard computers will take control of the countdown. The Falcon 9 will start the pressurization of its tanks shortly. T-minus 1 minute.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Dragon is in countdown. SpaceX Launch Director, go for launch.
There we have the final go for launch from the SpaceX Launch Director.
T-minus 30 seconds.
$20 seconds. Let's listen in to SpaceX for the final countdown.
15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff as Dragon returns to Space Launch Complex 40.
Vehicle is pitching downrange. Power and telemetry nominal. Mach 1. Max Q.
Falcon 9 has now reached the point of maximum dynamic pressure.
MVAC is chilling.
We're hearing that the second stage engine has started its chill down process. Beautiful views here. These are coming from Pete Carstens of Max Q Productions. Coming up on the separation of the first and second stages and the shutdown of the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage. And there we have the shutdown.
Miko.
Stage separation confirmed.
Confirmation of the separation. Beautiful views from the onboard cameras.
MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
And we can see the start of the boost back burn. The Falcon 9 essentially performing a U-turn in the skies over Florida. Turning around to head back to a landing here at Cape Canaveral. Planning to touch down at landing zone 1. Boost back burn still underway. It's going to wrap up in a few seconds. Well, looks like we've had shutdown of the boost back burn.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
Those pulses that you're seeing in this video
Both stages nominal trajectory.
Those pulses you're seeing in this video from Pete Costin's tracking camera are cold gas thrusters, which are helping to maneuver the Falcon 9 as it now heads back towards Cape Canaveral. Meanwhile, the upper stage continues to fire to place the cargo Dragon into orbit. Now 4 minutes into flight. The first stage is still climbing 131 kilometers in altitude. It's starting to slow as it reaches the peak of its altitude, and it will then start falling back into the atmosphere. You can see that view from the first stage cameras on the left and the upper stage on the right. The velocity is now starting to pick up as the Falcon 9 booster begins to descend, and you can see it here in our tracking camera view. Also getting views from Chuck Briggs. You can see those cold gas thrusters firing to keep the booster on target for its landing. It was just a short journey to space for Booster 1080. That's now on its way back. You can see the speed picking up here as the Falcon 9 plunges back towards Florida. Still technically in space over the Kármán line, which is marked at the 100-kilometer mark. You can see some pretty incredible views coming from our tracking cameras on the ground, showing the pulsing of the thrusters. Hope to be able to track the booster all the way down to the ground. Not always easy in the daylight. You can see the Cape coming into view in this onboard camera image. We're coming up on the entry burn. That's needed to slam on the brakes as the
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there we see the start of the entry burn. Beautiful images coming here from Chuck Briggs. You can see that booster sticking out from the fireball at its base.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
Stage 1 FTS has safed. Both stages nominal trajectory.
We'll be coming up on the landing burn, the final burn. The first stage is now at an altitude of about 6
Stage
kilometers.
Stage 1 transonic.
Incredible tracking views from SpaceX here. See the Cape coming into clear view. There's the start of the
Stage 1
landing burn. We'll also hear
Stage
the
1
sonic
landing leg
booms.
deploy.
Booster 1080 is back on the
Stage 1
ground.
landing confirmed.
Terminal guidance.
Those sonic booms just sounded here at the Kennedy Space Center.
Stage 2 FTS has safed.
Meanwhile, the second stage continues to propel the Cargo Dragon vehicle towards orbit. Deployment will follow after the shutdown of that second stage.
MVAC shutdown.
There we hear confirmation from SpaceX of shutdown of the second stage of the Falcon 9.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And confirmation that they have reached the correct orbit. This orbit will put the Cargo Dragon on course for a rendezvous with the International Space Station on Saturday morning. We're now about 9.5 minutes into flight. The cargo Dragon will separate from the second stage of the Falcon 9 at about 11 minutes, 48 seconds into flight. Hope to get good views of that separation, and we may see that pump module that I mentioned earlier that's being carried up inside the trunk of the cargo Dragon vehicle. That pump is a spare for the space station's cooling system. Now 10 minutes into flight. Less than a minute to go before the deployment of the Dragon vehicle from the second stage of the Falcon 9. I want to thank everyone who's offered support during our broadcast today. Apologies for not giving everyone their kudos just yet, but with Will away, I am performing double duty today, keeping all the video flowing into our stream and switching views. So just wanted to give a big thanks to Heron, who donated €6, and Viper BT124 for their
Dragon separation confirmed.
We hear confirmation of Dragon deploy. We don't see video of that yet. Well, it's a shame we're not seeing the video of the deploy. It's certainly a stunning view looking the other way, but it'd be very nice to see the cargo Dragon as it moves away from the second stage, and hopefully we will get to see some of that footage. Thanks also to Mel Roberts-Harold, one of our regular viewers who's checking in from Chicago. Thank you for your support, Mel, and your $10 super chat. Also to Sunny V for your $10 super chat. Big thank you to Marcus Gallegos for his gift of 5 Spaceflight Now memberships. If you were lucky enough to get one of those, please be sure to thank Marcus. Well, we've not seen any video from the Dragon itself. We often get views from the spacecraft. Hopefully we'll get to see the opening of the nose cone. The nose cone protects the docking mechanism at the top of the cone of the capsule, and that opening sequence should be underway. We're not seeing video of that operation right now. Neither do we see the separation of the Dragon. These views we're receiving now are coming from the second stage. There are cameras on each side of that stage, and the video feed rotates between those two views. So on the left-hand side of your screen now, you can see the Mission Control Center at Hawthorne in California. And on the right side of the screen is the Mission Control for the International Space Station program at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where my colleague Will Robinson-Smith currently is working away, learning about the crew flight test for the Starliner vehicle. Standing by for any word from NASA or SpaceX on the nose cone deployment. Just to recap, the Falcon 9 and Cargo Dragon lifted off at 4:55 p.m. this afternoon in amazing blue sky conditions here on Florida's Space Coast. It was the first Cargo Dragon to fly from Pad 40 since 2020. Previously, only the first generation Dragon vehicles flew from that pad. This graphic from NASA shows the burns that are required to maneuver the Cargo Dragon spacecraft to its docking at the International Space Station. The Cargo Dragon uses Draco thrusters that use hypergolic propellants. Those phasing burns will be starting over the next few days before the final close-in towards the space station. The Dragon is heading towards a docking with the Zenith port of the International Space Station. Meanwhile, back at Pad 40, the strongback structure is starting to move back into position. This is a fairly new process that SpaceX has adopted to help with the turnaround of the pad.